Alrighty, so you read the title. I spent $500 marketing my SaaS application, and I want to tell y'all all about it. On this channel, I have tried to be as transparent as possible with everything that goes into building a SaaS application. In the past, I've talked a lot about the technical aspects, the mental aspects, but I'm very excited to kind of share my first foray into the financial aspect of things. So like I said, I spent $500 marketing this SaaS. The exact strategy that I used was influencer marketing on YouTube. And if you've been following around at all, you've probably heard about me talking about this. And it was something that I've been very interested to try out for a long time. And I know that some of y'all are probably just here to hear that final number. You know, I spent $500. How much did that equate to in sales at the end of the day? So I'm going to give you that number, but after that, I'm going to go into a lot of detail on how I found this person to work with, all of the business proceedings that were before the actual advertisement itself, a bunch of stats and data that I gathered during the promotion, and then just a bunch of things that I'm going to do differently next time. So you'll definitely want to stick around for that if you're thinking about doing this type of advertising. All right, so drum roll, $500 in. We only made $40 from that. It hurts a little bit. Hurts a little bit to say out loud. So that $500 promotion equated to 2 sales. Actually, not even $40. I sell my SaaS application for $19 for a lifetime subscription. And so, you know, it's $38, not actually $40. So ROI on that, not very good. But I did learn a bunch of things, and there's a lot of lessons that I can kind of take away from it. And that's really what I want to talk about in the majority of this video. All right, so let's hop into it. Let's talk about influencer marketing specifically on YouTube, because this is the strategy that I wanted to employ for this first marketing venture. And I want to talk about the process of finding someone to work with. So if you're not familiar with the SaaS that I have built, it's called Dinnerbee, and it is a meal planning tool for families and couples. So with that in mind, I could take my brand statement, right? It's meal planning for couples and families, and then I can try and start finding YouTube channels that somehow would fit into that niche. I ended up compiling a list of, I think, 50 to 100 different YouTube channels of varying sizes, and they all had to somehow play into that brand statement. So a lot of the channels that I was looking at had something to do with either like budget, meal planning, or recipe videos. Some of the channels were just couple videos, or some channels were like a combination of all 3 of those. And I really thought that those types of audiences for these channels would resonate the best with Dinnerbee. And that was kind of just my hypothesis going into it, right? There wasn't a great way to validate that beforehand because I just don't have a clear grasp of who my ideal customer is at the moment. Now, in terms of reaching out to all of these, I sent out about 10 to 15 emails from that list of 50 to 100 that I had. And I was pretty much just like, hey, I think you make great content. I have this platform that I've built, and I think it would really resonate with your audience. I would love to give you a free account so you can try it out for yourself and make sure that this is something that you would be comfortable promoting to your audience. I mentioned obviously compensation up front, and then assured them that I would be there every step of the way to answer any questions that came up. And from those 10 to 15 emails that I sent out, I actually had, I think, 4 responses, which was more responses than I expected to get. So I kind of just put a pause on sending out new emails and tried to focus on the leads that I had at that moment. Some of the leads didn't really pan out, whether it be because the channels were just too big and I could not afford the spot. It just didn't make any sense for me financially. Some of them just kind of petered out because maybe it wasn't the best fit between my product and their audience, but one of them really did work out. And this channel was really mostly revolved around budget recipes, and she also has a large family, a number of kids. And so we both thought that Dinnerbee would resonate really well with her audience, who are also parents and looking for budget recipes. So after a few back and forth emails, we were able to arrive on a couple different conclusions about when the video would be posted, what the video would need in it, price that I would pay. This is the $500, and this was a price that I was comfortable paying. This particular YouTuber had about 25,000 subscribers, and every video would have on average somewhere between 2,000 to 5,000 views, and some of the better performing videos would have up to 10,000 views. So I said, hey, I think this makes sense for me. You know, I have some kind of context on prices for YouTube influencers, having done a few spots myself. And so I said, hey, yeah, this is a great starting point for us, and let's go forward. From there, I needed to draft up 2 pretty important things. So the first was a contract that actually binded all of those pieces of information that we decided on into a nice legal document. Thank you, ChatGPT. And once that was signed, I was also able to create a creative brief for DinnerBee, highlighting the most important parts of the application and the cost benefit that a family could see using a product like DinnerBee. I left it pretty open to this particular influencer to craft the messaging however it would make sense in that particular video, as long as they were also able to highlight some of the important features that I wanted highlighted. I wasn't super picky on all of the particular wording. There are some downsides to this, and we'll get into those when I talk about things that I'm going to do differently. But for the most part, it is easier for the influencer if they're able to just have a little bit of control over the messaging, just so they can weave it into the video a bit more naturally. Okay, so that's all of the before the advertisement stuff out of the way. Let's talk about what happened with the advertisement itself, and more specifically, some of the data and numbers that I gathered after the promotion went live. So I did this spot about a month ago, and in that month, the video has accumulated about 2,500 views. There's not that many comments on it. I'll say there's only about 8 comments, so maybe the engagement on that video wasn't super high, but it was a pretty average performing video for her channel, so I wasn't really super surprised with that number of views. What I was kind of surprised about though was the number of folks who watched the video versus the number of folks who ended up on the DinnerBee website. And so I track site engagement through Facebook pixels, so I'm able to see how many people went to specific pages and specific pieces of my onboarding process. And so in the first week of that video being live, I only had about 66 people hit the DinnerBee landing page. And so that was the link that I had given this influencer to put in her bio and also advertise in the video advertisement spot itself. So obviously that's not great, right? You had 2,500 people who had seen this video, 66 people who ended up on my website, and I would need an insane conversion rate to get anywhere near profitable or make all my money back. And if you calculate this number as a cost per view, which is a pretty common and important marketing statistic, that comes out to about $7.57 per view. And to distill that even more, like it literally costs $7.57 to get one person to see the DinnerBee site, which in terms of different marketing methods is incredibly high, way more than I would be comfortable spending in any other context. So obviously there was some kind of disconnect. Now, the other 2 pieces of stats that I want to throw in here are, right, we had 2,500 people who saw the video. We had 66 who ended up on the website. We only had 4 people who created accounts. And so my onboarding flow goes landing page, account creation, and then gives the option to buy. So the drop off is pretty insane between all of those numbers. And then ultimately, right, I only had 2 conversions. So the stats were not amazing, I'm not gonna lie, but there's definitely some things that went into all of that. One other thing that I wanna point out about YouTube influencer marketing in general before I hop into some things that I would do differently is there are different phases of a marketing funnel. And if you think about the whole marketing process as a funnel, YouTube influencer marketing might be something that you see at the top of the funnel. It's not something that you would really expect a lot of direct sales to come from, but it's more of a brand awareness play, right? So all of these 2,500 people that saw this video, they're seeing DinnerBee for the first time. There are some marketing stats out there that say that a potential buyer has to be exposed to your brand about 7 times before they're comfortable making a buying decision. So like I said, this play, I really had to think more of a brand awareness campaign instead of just trying to get a bunch of sales right from this promotion. There are different marketing avenues that are way better suited to the direct sale aspect of the sales funnel, but I was very curious to see what would happen from this promotion, and so that is why I'm sharing it with all of y'all. So let's hop into some of the mistakes that I made. And first off, I want to kind of phrase all of this as I don't think it's a raging failure. I did kind of maybe expect maybe like 5 to 10 sales, but I absolutely did not expect to turn a profit on this and didn't even really expect to break even. But I did want to try out this method and see what kind of results I could get. And then there's some other things based off of this advertising that I could do, such as retargeting folks who had come to the website in the first place, or running additional campaigns so that they have more of an exposure to DinnerBee down the line. The first bucket of mistakes, I think, is just a bit more due diligence in the channel that I will be working with. What I mean by this is I mentioned before that the amount of comments and likes that were on this video were not super high. So that really just means that folks weren't necessarily very engaged with this content, and I didn't do a ton of due diligence looking through her past videos to see if this was a trend. And if I had seen this beforehand, I might not have gone through with this promotion, at least not at that price, because obviously if folks aren't engaging with the video, they're also not clicking on links on that video, and that ended up being very true in my scenario as well. The other piece of this is this particular influencer did a lot of advertisements. On all of her past videos, like almost every single video has a promotion in it, which like props to her. That's awesome. She's getting mad engagement and mad promotions, which is super cool. But it does mean from an audience perspective that they could be a little bit burned out on ads. All of the ads are definitely different companies, different verticals, and she weaves them into her videos in different ways. But it's still an advertisement at the end of the day. So if you're a viewer and you're watching all of the videos from this person and there's an ad in every single video and you're not really interested in any of the previous ads, you're very likely to just skip through the ad on this video as well. So those are things that I couldn't necessarily control, but could have done a little bit more due diligence beforehand. Here's some things that I think are mistakes on my part, but are things that I could have controlled and really should have and will do in the future. So the first and the absolute biggest one is I need to have complete control over the creative assets that go into the advertisement itself. And what I mean by this is inside of her video, there's about a minute to a minute and a half long segment that is an advertisement for Dinner Bee. And a lot of the footage that is part of that advertisement was like screen recorded from her computer so that she could, create this advertisement. It's not the worst thing in the world. However, there are absolutely some parts of that advertisement that do not shed Dinner Bee in the best light. And I need to have complete control over what a customer sees from an advertising perspective, because I can't let small UI tweaks come across in an advertising video and then expect people to want to buy that thing. So what I'll be doing in the future is taking videos myself, editing them, and making sure that I show Dinner Bee in the best possible light and showcasing all the features that I need to show. This should have been pretty obvious, but I guess I was just a little lazy and expected a little bit too much of this client, which is totally fine, kind of my fault. Have nothing against her at all, but I could have done a little bit better in that regard. One other thing that I could probably do better is just have a more optimized landing page and onboarding funnel. So I think my landing page is pretty good for the most part. It explains my messaging very clearly, what Dinner Bee is and the things that you can get from Dinner Bee, but there is always room for improvement. And I definitely think there's room for improvement in my onboarding flow as well. I would like to have some kind of survey at the beginning before account creation, because people can definitely get turned away if they're just immediately asked to sign up for an account. But if they have some kind of incentive beforehand, that's maybe showing them exactly how much money they could potentially save with Dinner Bee, and then they hit the account creation, that ask becomes a little bit less and it's not as intrusive. Finally, I didn't really give a good offer or incentive for this YouTuber's audience to come and purchase Dinner Bee. It was not a discounted rate at all. Don't get me wrong, it's not a bad price at all. It's $19 lifetime access. But I could have done something like, oh, normal price is $27 or $35, whatever, and then chopped it to the $19 that it normally is and given them a discount code and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't do that. So possibly that could have had some impact as well. So all that being said, I want to talk about what's next, because at the end of the day, I still did make 2 sales, and I'm at 3 sales total, which is obviously not a lot, especially given the amount of time and money that I put into it, but it's still incredibly cool to look at your phone and see, hey, I just sold a copy of my SaaS application. I just sold my software. Someone is purchasing this and using it and possibly getting a lot of value out of it, which is a really cool feeling. And as soon as that happened once, I just want it to keep happening over and over and over again. So I will be continuing to lean into different marketing tactics. I definitely want to play around with YouTube influencer marketing a little bit more, improve on some of the mistakes that I made, and kind of fine tune that process as much as possible. Like I said before, I also want to start utilizing some remarketing tactics. So I have all these people who went to the site at one point, but they left for whatever reason. I'm able to target them with advertisements on Facebook and Instagram, and I think that is something that I would like to play around with a good amount as well. I still plan to make a short form content, and that is the other main strategy that I'm looking to do with Dinner Bee, is set up accounts on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts, and make short form content that promotes Dinner Bee in some kind of subtle way. All in all, I just want to gather more data and figure out what works for this type of application. And just know that whatever I do, I will be documenting here on this YouTube channel. So if you are into building software applications and trying to sell them on the internet, definitely subscribe so you can listen to more of my failures and essentially just do the opposite of whatever I do. But anyways, thank you a ton for watching all the way through to the end of this video. I really do appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you in the next one.